I got my MTV out. Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
Diddy will not see the light of day for a very long time, and I also think that he's going to drag quite a few people into the depths of hell with him, especially since his trial is tomorrow. So let's look at his birth chart to get a better understanding of him on a psychological level. Hello, my name is Ethereal Mother, your favorite artist, psychic, and astrologer. If you are curious about your birth chart, I am offering astrology readings so you can understand yourself better than before. The link is down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So first things first with this birth chart, we don't have a confirmed birth time. So what I did was did 12 p.m. for his birth time, and it actually is pretty spot on. So I think he might have been born around this time. But anyway, things will make sense once we kind of go through different pieces of his birth chart. So considering he has Jupiter and Venus in Libra in the 10th house, shows me that he has amassed a lot of wealth and success that has expanded pretty exponentially because of his relationships and employees and partnerships as well. But instead of this being a very joyful and loving and harmonious connection, it feels more like it's filled with greed, and he does not have a concern for the relationships that he has. So it's very much like, Jupiter, I am the god of Olympus, give me what I want, and that's it. That is it. One of the more concerning things in his chart is he has Jupiter and Venus, and it is making a square to Mars. Squares represents challenges, intensity, sometimes it can be aggression, and it makes sense with Mars being aggression as well. So he has been very prone to having aggressive confrontations and domestic violence type of situations within all of his relationships for the most part. Like, it's either you conform to what I'm asking, or there will be some sort of aggressive repercussions. And then, like I said, he does have Mars in Capricorn, which Capricorn is all about your reputation, especially within the career space. So, and he does have a reputation for moving in this way, and to the point where it has become acceptable depending on who's around him, and everyone just kind of looks the other way for the most part, because it's like, it's Diddy, like, what are you gonna do, you know? With his obsession of power, I do attribute it to Andre Harrell and Clive Davis, who were his mentors, and they did create the man that we know today. They both presented themselves as father figures, but then they showed him how to really demand power in all these different ways, especially when it comes down to blackmail, things being done in the shadows, which he's very accustomed to and enjoys because he has a Scorpio sun. So it makes complete sense that all of these things kind of go together for him. And again, we can attribute this to a lot of his Libra placements in his chart. A lot of these business relationships or contracts or whatever that he had with these individuals showed him how to get to this insane level of success and popularity that he has never seen before. And we honestly have never seen before either. And the way that he has been able to be one of the top dogs in the music industry for, I want to say, almost 2 to 3 decades is pretty crazy. And then speaking of Andre Harrell and Clive Davis, Clive specifically, allegedly, has been connected to, or is connected to, Whitney Houston, and also I think that he allegedly might have had a hand in her untimely passing. So interesting threads going there. So just to kind of, if you look into him, I think that him being Diddy's mentor, a lot of darkness over there. So, and again, I know that Diddy is a Scorpio sun, and Scorpios does represent darkness, but again, there can be this like transformative phoenix rising from the ashes type of transformation, but then there's this where it's like almost like a, I want to say demigorgon, but that's not that's not what I want to say. I want to, like, not a demigod, but what do you call a demi? Is it a demi-demon? I don't know. Whatever that is, that. And so again, I said Scorpio, Diddy is a Scorpio sun. Again, very dark, intense energy, pushes things to the extreme. It's also ruled by Pluto as well. And again, every single thing that he was taught, he did it. Now, the ketamine and the baby oil, I don't know if that's something that he came up on his own, or it could have been just a normal recipe this bitch has had like in the back of their storage room. I don't know, but that is just, again, taking things to the extreme. Whatever he can do to feel something, you know, because it just feels very, for Diddy, everything just feels very hollow. You know, he just feels, he might have always been this way. So it just, there's a lot about his background before the fame that I'm not quite sure about. So maybe one day we'll get some more details. Probably not though, because Scorpio placements, especially Scorpio men, typically like to keep that sort of stuff private. So we'll see. And I did think it was interesting. So you have Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto, and then you think of the mythology of Hades, how he dragged Persephone down to hell, the underworld, and we were only able to see her a couple times a year. I think when springtime is here, that's when Persephone is able to come forth and, you know, do all the things. So I thought that was very interesting, especially when you think about Cassie and Kim, who he has been in, I think both of them, he was with them for about 10 years each. And again, those women went through some of the most traumatic things imaginable, and I still don't think that we know everything, but we've seen enough. We've seen quite a bit thus far. And then this man had the audacity to go on Instagram Live and burn some sage and say that people are trying to attack him because they're jealous, and it's like, nah, baby, like, that's people's ancestors or their spirits attacking you because you be on some bullshit. You are the demon that you're trying to sage away. It doesn't work like that. I did think it was interesting that Diddy has a retrograde Saturn in his chart. Typically with retrograde energies, you turn that energy inward and kind of focus on what's going on internally. So it's interesting because there could have been some things that happened in childhood to put him in this mental space where he became so thirsty with greed and tempted by greed and all these shiny, sparkly things, and of course having power over others. And the thing is, it's just this willingness to consume and crush others, especially if it's like going to potentially jeopardize his success. And it makes me think of Saturn Kronos. Kronos ate his own children, and was very destructive because it was like, oh, you bitches can't like be more powerful than me, you know, like that's kind of the vibe. So it makes sense that, you know, that would be kind of how he did things. And again, it makes sense because Saturn will give you the opportunities and the responsibilities to build wealth responsibly, but rather than that, he hoarded it, he mistreated others, he dismissed his commitments, which is very Saturnian, and he blackballed a lot of artists as well. And all of these things created a lot of blockages, and I think that is here to bite him in the ass. All of this karma has been built up over the past, 20-30 years. Again, with these artists that kind of dealt with this sort of behavior, it was like you either submit to what I'm asking or you get all of the things that I kind of just listed. So, and again, Saturn makes a square, again creating challenges with Mars, and again this aggressive energy. So he's aggressively creating blockages for the people that he's working with, in order to get them to conform or to keep them in a specific space. And again, Mars and Scorpio can represent abuse, manipulation, things like that. So it's really unfortunate. And then also Saturn rules his first house, Capricorn, which is your public perception as well, or how the public perceives you. And again, Capricorn typically rules the part of the chart that is over career. So again, there is this very interesting connection. Hello. Get out of my mouth. So it's interesting how he was able to maintain this very specific persona and image for, again, 20 plus years, I'm sorry, we'll say 30 plus years, because that is actually a Saturn cycle, so it makes sense that now it's kind of ending, because again, he's been around since the 90s, so crazy shit. But again, Saturn is here to collect his karma, because again, you can't be not paying people and expect that not to bite you in the ass. You can't expect that. And again, with Diddy's Capricorn rising, I am 100% sure that, again, Capricorn representing your legacy, your reputation, and all of that is enmeshed with his identity and how he sees himself. So with all of these lawsuits and the potential of all of this ruining what he has built over the past 30-ish years, you know, it has been, I'm sure it's been extremely detrimental to his psyche. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he has been on, how do I say this? They're keeping a close eye on him so he does not unalive himself, so which would make sense. And again, he does have Venus in Libra square Mars, so it seems as if a lot of his aggression has been aimed towards women. I'm sure everybody has gotten hit with his aggression, but specifically the women, because it just feels like he believes that they're easy targets. And again, the most notable is Kim, Cassie, and Dawn Richard, and of course Aubrey O'Day has she has been speaking on this man I want to say since the 90s, or at least the early 2000s. So, and also I thought it was interesting because he does have Pluto in Virgo. Virgo is typically represented by things that are pure, virgin type of energy. Cassie was very young when they started dating. I think she was 16, if I'm not mistaken. So, and again, with the way that he is kind of wired, it makes me feel like he used a lot of the women in his life to like siphon their energy. You know, again, he's just so destructive. So it's like that, I feel like that's the only way he feels is it that he can like replenish his energy is pulling it out of someone else. Again, it really makes me think of like Hades and stuff like that in the underworld, just being, or what's those things from Harry Potter? The Dementors. It makes me think of the Dementors just sucking the life out of you, sucking all of your good memories out until you're nothing but a shell or someone or something that he can control until he's done with you, basically. You know, until you become disposable for him. Venus also represents prostitution, so there's that. And one of the things that I thought was so fascinating about Diddy is he got on his back in 2017 was a tattoo of Azil Dantor, I think that's how you say it, or basically the Black Madonna. She is a figure who is a protector of women and children. So I feel like 2017 was definitely, I don't know for sure because I'm still trying to dissect that timeline, but I believe that that was when like the decline of Diddy's reputation and everything started to kind of just, you know, because again, you got something on your body tattooed, Mars, on your skin, Saturn, that is supposed to protect the things that you hurt the most. So I just think that's really interesting how all of those things kind of tie together. And so for in his chart, he does have the North Node or Rahu in Pisces. And Pisces does represent prison. So it kind of feels like he was always destined to go to prison. I also feel like maybe if he had the right mentors, again, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, which is definitely like the teacher, the philosopher, the guru. So it's like, I feel like that could have been his route, but again, he has been introduced to darkness probably at a very young age. So, and then also Pisces does represent the fantasy and the illusions. And then you have Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, which is close to his MC, or the part of his chart that represents his career, and it's in Scorpio. So let's piece all these things together, right? So as a business, the MC, he has provided his clients with whatever their fantasies, whatever their fantasies are, he is going to obtain what that is, especially on a sexual level with that Scorpio energy, with this intense level of secrecy. So basically he is like Epstein for the music industry. We could also compare him to Littlefinger from the Game of Thrones. He has this very high level of power, and even more so because he has all of these little secrets. He knows all of this different information. He's constantly surveilling what's going going on. But again, there's this interesting aspect to it of where even with Littlefinger and the comparison with Littlefinger and Diddy, both of them could never get to the level that they really wanted. Both of them wanted to be king, and I feel like based on what I know, and you think about how, like I said earlier, Clive Dave was one of Diddy's mentors. Diddy was never going to get to a level like Clive Davis. That's just not how it's going to happen. Because Clive Davis, I think this man is going to die and still be untouchable. I don't think Diddy ever had that level of protection. He probably believed he did, but I don't think so. Like, Clive is never going to see a day in prison. I strongly believe that, as do many white men within these types of industries and situations. And again, with that Pluto and Virgo, he documented all of these transactions in order to be used as blackmail later on. So depending on what happens during his trial, I know it's going to take some time for everything to fully finalize, but I'm curious to see what names gets released while this trial is happening, because again, he has been videotaping and all of this for a very long time, so we shall see what happens. So what can we learn from all this bullshit? First and foremost, I will say beforehand, Pluto was in Capricorn, which represented like the CEOs, people in power, company, really big, large corporations. And for many years, they were able to get away with mistreating their employees for whatever reason. But now that Pluto is in Aquarius, I feel like it's leveling the playing field. Like, for example, within the music industry, we could find like a lot of artists are going to stay independent in order to protect themselves from predators like Diddy. And again, he's not the only one. Clive Dave is not the only one. There's a lot that, again, probably won't see a day in prison, especially for the white men. So, and again, for these independent or future independent artists, Aquarius are going to be able to use the internet, their groups, their networking skills, or their network in general, and continue to have like this very underground aesthetic with that Pluto energy. Like, it's okay for them not to be insanely big, but with Pluto energy, they could also have a huge influence over the masses. Like, you never know. But the beauty of it is, if they stay independent, they get to maintain all of this wealth and energy and everything like that. And then also, again, with Pluto, what do you find underground? You find diamonds and gold and jewels underground. So people have so much potential that you wouldn't even know. And again, people like Diddy have blocked a lot of creative artists from seeing the light of day, unfortunately. So it's unfortunate. So again, leveling the playing field. So we might see a lot of really cool artists come out over the next 15 to 20 years. That's how long Pluto is going to be in Aquarius. So that is very exciting. I love me some good music and some new artists. And again, Diddy is another example of how manipulation, mistreatment, not committing to your commitments or contracts, and being abusive will bite you in the ass, even if it's 20 years down the line or 30 years down the line, whatever it might be. And also, I did want to mention that I did some reading and found out that he did attend Catholic school when he was younger. I feel that could have been maybe his first experience with SA. Again, Catholic schools have a terrible reputation for it. And again, you have people, again, who look the other way when this type of bullshit happens. And so again, this could have been his first introduction to doing something within the shadows and being able to get away with it with God, spirituality, Jupiter, and love as a false persona or a shield from consequences, basically, Saturn. Not saying that this is an excuse, but I do think that that's an interesting puzzle to insert into his psyche and his makeup and how all of this could have happened. And also to kind of show or express how, even for me, I'm such a huge advocate for protecting children and getting them into therapy and offering support as well, because this is what happens when you don't acknowledge trauma. You get a Diddy, you get an Epstein, you get people who don't know how to act. And it sucks because, especially from a spiritual or a Christian standpoint, it's like, oh, they kind of get the opportunity to parade around as a servant of the Lord. And it's like, nah, maybe you are a demon. You are a demon or something lesser than. So it's just crazy. And again, just being mindful of how important it is to heal childhood wounds, because you will become an adult that is very destructive. And speaking from personal experience, therapy definitely saved my life. You know, I just felt so lost and confused and like just very numb and like a void. You know, I just couldn't do anything to make myself happy. And eventually, shout out to therapy and doing the work and all these other things, and tarot and astrology, doing much better. Doing much better, still having a silly goofy time, but doing significantly better when I got introduced to all of these different tools and resources that benefits me still to this day. So all that to say, I hope that this was interesting, and I love you. You are loved. You deserve love. And until next time, bye.